couple of minutes have gone by, and we have now a nice set of people joining. Thank you everyone for your time and for joining us today. We will be looking at RightPick. So RightPick, it's a dashboard extension for everyone that's hearing about RightPick for the first time. It's a dashboard extension for Tableau. And we will also be showcasing the new features for those of you that already know about it. So we're going to try to cover as much as possible for everyone. So please stick around to see how it works, but also to take a look at the new features. By the end, we'll also have Q&A where you can clarify any questions. You can type them in the chat while I'm presenting, and at the end, I'll go through them. Okay, so let's jump right into it. I'm Bruno. I'll be doing the webinar today, going through any of your questions as well. And if later on you need to reach us by any reason, feel free to reach out directly to me or to our support team. RightPick started as a dashboard extension for Tableau, and we are now established in the market for a few years now as, let's say, one of the best extensions for inputting data through the dashboards. And with that, we also expanded our offering. So we started with RightPick server, so the on-premise version of RightPick, where we can install it in our infrastructure. And then essentially everything is local to you. Both the RightPick server, the database, you have complete control over all aspects of RightPick. Regarding the RightPick cloud, very similar approach with the exception of the server installation for RightPick. So that's hosted in our cloud environment. And then the database is always going to be on your side. We don't store any of your data. But these are the two versions of RightPick that came before. And now we also have an offering of RightPick for Power BI. If that's something that you use as well besides Tableau or planning on moving to Power BI, we now have a cloud offering of RightPick for Power BI. We'll actually be doing a webinar similar to this one, but on Thursday, specifically for Power BI. And in there, we'll cover how to set it up in that environment. For today, we're going to stay on Tableau and showcase how RightPick works in there, and also how we can set it up. So where does RightPick come into play? We are using Tableau to display the data, to get our insights and see anything that we need to do with our data. But then we don't actually have that feedback that we can provide if necessary. If your action or if your data points need actions or commenting or any particular action to be taken on them, you can now use RightPick on those dashboards to establish that that missing link essentially. So, and that's exactly what we can do with RightPick on Tableau, and essentially, everything is configured at the dashboard level. Once an admin does the installation of RightPick on a server or sets it up on the RightPick cloud environment, we can then bring RightPick into the dashboards. That RightPick on the dashboard level is then set up by whoever is developing the dashboard. So they bring what's called a T-Rex file. It's a file that lets you load extensions into the dashboards. And then everything on the Tableau side, the user can create the tables through RightPick. And then once the table on RightPick is created, that will essentially kickstart your use case. From that moment on, everything that you do on that particular configuration for writeback on that writeback dataset will stay in your database in that new table, allowing you to make the dashboard more interactive. This, of course, is all audited, secured, because all the users need to have a login, and you can then identify who is doing what throughout the process. Now, as new features that we introduced on version 6 of writeback, 6 for the server or 2.0 for the cloud, are the email notifications. So that's a highly requested feature based on customer feedback. So writeback is now going in the route that we wanted to for some time. It has been on our roadmap to make writeback more collaborative. And that's the first step, working towards that. You can now notify specific people when you're doing an entry on your writeback forms. We'll see that we'll see that working during this presentation. An additional change we made, for those of you that already know the data grid, we renamed it to Smart Table because we intend to do much more with it now. So we did a bit of let's say a facelift on it, where we now have some additional quality of life features like the column filters, sorting, and the overall look and feel feels more efficient, more familiar to those of you that are used to having like data grids or Excel files to work with. So essentially makes everything more streamlined, more agile to work with. And we're going also to see that in place with the new type of use case that we developed to show. And then for another topic that we have in here is the multi-select. I made a typo over there, but should read multi-select on the predefined options. So just a dropdown that now lets you select multiple values. With that out of the way, we can actually go to what matters and get right back going. I'll just bring it over here so we can see it. And now let's get started exactly through the more recent use case that we have to show you. This use case is not enabled specifically by the new features, of course, as writeback is deployed on your infrastructure, you can build as many use cases as you want. So this is essentially just another way to configure writeback that we now have in place to show another possibility. The first step when a user comes into writeback is to log in. If they are not already logged in their infrastructure with single sign-on, for example, they would have to trigger that through here. But typically that's going to be more automatic and going to take their company credentials. In this case, just because I'm using a demonstration user, I'll have to log in place, but that's just a temporary login for my local user. And then we're actually seeing over here the new smart table already in place, and allowing us to interact with the data from our source data on the left directly through here on writeback without having to do any additional selection of marks or any additional filtering, because writeback is just simply picking up everything that we have on the left side. So over here, I can scroll down and then take action on whatever items I need to take action. So, oh, by the way, just a quick disclaimer, I'm using Tableau desktop just because it makes it easier for me to show you around the worksheets, all the configurations and everything. But as an end user, using writeback on, let's say, Tableau Cloud or Tableau Server, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to bring that up. There we go. As an end user using these on Tableau Cloud or Tableau Server, you would get a very similar experience to these, because a viewer using writeback on their daily, using Tableau on their daily activities they would be able to still use Writeback as a viewer as long as, of course, they have a login and everything. Because the Writeback will show on the dashboards just like it does, just like the worksheets do. So it's just another component in the dashboards that will be there in the, let's say, view only. So the smart table now in here lets us, as I mentioned, we can narrow down the options on the top. So let's say, for example, an apartment over here that needs to be updated. Like this one over here, it seems to have slightly different values from the others. So let's work on this one. So let's fork bishop. Let's work over here for fork bishop. Now it's over there, and I can let's provide an adjustment for that apartment. So let's, for example, say that it wasn't 7,000, it was actually 10,000. And the occupancy rate was actually around 70%, for example. This could be coming from different sources, consolidating everything, and now we're providing the actual values that took place and were not correct in the initial phase. So let's just submit this information to get that into play. After doing the submit, we're now doing a refresh of the data on the dashboard. So we can see over here nothing updated because this is now over here waiting for approval. So that's why we don't yet see the value being changed in there. So the value now needs to be updated by the manager. So for that manager, we are illustrating these on a separate dashboard, which would typically be the preferred way to implement a similar approach where the manager would come in here and then decide if they want to update the actual value or not. So if I go down here, so I can now see on over here that oh, sorry, I looked for one and I changed the different one. Sorry about that. I just noticed that I was not working on the correct one there. But that's all right. I still see the update there, just for a different one. I submitted it there for the flat smaller divide. That's why we see it now on a pending state. So on the manager side, again, we are seeing that latest entry done by me. The manager can see the user. Of course, this is just a demonstration email, of course, because these would be the username of whoever submitted that change. And then the manager can either approve or reject the change. Let's say that I want to approve and say that all makes sense. We are good, for example. And then I can submit this change. And effectively now that change will update the value in here, making it approved. Okay. And we can see so the 10,000 on the revenue value and the 70% on the occupancy rate have been approved, and we can now see that side by side over here. So this has been a highly requested use case to use Writeback with, exactly to get this type of collaborative way of using Writeback. And in here, when a user is submitting the data, they can actually, for example, notify the manager. So let's say that the manager was Alice over here. I can do like so, and then if let's do, yeah, we can change this one over here. Let's do, for example, 20,000 on this, and set an occupancy rate of 80%. When I submit, Alice is going to get an email with this entry, so with the entry that I'm working with. So let's just wait for the data to submit. And now we're also doing the refresh, so we now see the pending state. And Just waiting on the email so I can show you, but while the email is arriving, so Alice was now notified, and the email should come anytime soon. So the email, in the meantime, I can actually show an example on how this looks like. So, for example, a user would get something like this. This is on a commenting scenario where we used comment on country, where we can now see the entry. So in this case, it would look like the property on the left and then the adjustment on the right. And to actually set this up, we made it simpler to do that initial setup to choose what form you want to look at. So from the perspective of an end user, that's what they will get. Pretty much very straightforward to use, very intuitive. You can sort the rows, you can sort by the numbers as well, or just the property names, in this case, alphabetically. In here, we're going to get, for example, the similar approach, the similar sort that we have in here, because this is alphabetical. So here we get it as well based on that. We can filter based on a search parameter. So if I just want to search for the Pines Gonzalez one or the Point Smith Pines, we can do that. And it's all readily available once we set it up as a smart table. So before, we used to have options at the dashboard settings level to accommodate these changes, but we felt that, and based on feedback, that this was something like a decision that we make when first starting. So we decided if we want a form or a table. The form, we then decide immediately if we want it to be pop-up or inline. Now with the table, the new smart table comes already with the filters and with a new option to see all the available rows. So that's why we are seeing we don't have to do any mark selection, because if we go down here to the settings, we're going to see that a lot of settings are already preset automatically for us, so we don't have to do anything after that. And also the new notifications we can see in place in here. You can, of course, disable. We always try to make everything as modular and as flexible as possible, giving you all the options to control your actions. On top of that, we still have everything like before, where we defined the table that Writeback will create to store the new values. So this table will be on your database, of course, separate from the sources. So Writeback will never write to the source data, but always write to a separate table to ensure data integrity. And this way you can easily join the data because Writeback reads the source data and stores that in that table as well. So typically you will define what key fields Writeback will read and store on the table. Besides that, in this example, we have two new columns, which is the adjusted net revenue and the adjusted occupancy rate. These are the values that the users will be submitting through the table. In this case, they're both numeric fields, and in the case of the well, actually both of them, we have an expression mask to show for the revenue value, a dollar sign, and for the occupancy rate, a percentage. Of course, you can customize these to your liking if you need to have other symbols or other types of values. Then, depending on the use case, of course, you may want to use different format types, like text, dates, predefined, rich text, or even a Boolean field. The Boolean field we're using actually on the manager side. Oops, sorry. On the manager side, we are using a Boolean field that actually has a condition on it. So when we set it to false, the reason code shows up in here. So the manager has to justify why they are rejecting the change. And then we can do the multi-select in this case. So we can, for example, say that it's out of scope and outdated and reject the change. So if I go in here, switch that to false, provide my justification, and submit. And now that change won't be activated in here. It should be removed from the list as well. Yep, there you go. So Tableau just updated, removed from the list, and the change doesn't take place in here anymore. To do these type of configurations, it's very straightforward as well. So in this case, we're using the inline form now, as you can see over there. And then on the reason code, because it is a predefined, we get the multi-select option here. So we enable that so we can do the multiple options. And then we have a condition on it. So it only shows when the approved change is set to false. So this way, we make it also mandatory. So the manager has to actually justify based on that reason code. This is very useful to ensure, for example, data quality and to make sure that you always work with the correct data through the forms, through the inputs. By the way, the change, as you can see, it's also the Boolean field over here for the true or false option. Okay, so lastly, over here, I'm going to cover another of the most common use cases as well that we get requested on write-back. So that one, the previous one, so the approval one, I wanted to use it to showcase that new use case, but also the new features. And in here, I'm going to focus now on the very basic level of using write-back. So that this would be the most traditional way of using it, let's say, where you come into the dashboard and you take your actions right away. So as you can see, because I already worked in before, now everything is up and running over here. I can do a broad analysis on the top where it's going to automatically pick up the filters. Write-back is set up in a way that it's going to pick that up. And then I can provide an analysis. So that's going to be a rich text format. So they say, for example, new analysis for that's Q3 2021. And let's say you need to reduce the weight shipments. I can make these bigger, for example, bold, to make sure we're aware of what's going on. And then over here, of course, I can customize anything as I need based on the properties that we have available in here. So after I apply and submit, we're going to see this immediately on write-back, as write-back can read it directly from its own table. Write-back is always connected to your database independently if you use an extract or a live connection. So with the case of the rich text, we can create write-back as a viewer. So that's on the configuration side. When we are setting it up for the first time, we will see an option to either configure a dataset or a viewer. And the viewer for a rich text will allow it to pull up a specific rich text field and display it with the context of the selected filters as well. So as you can see, when I go around and play around with the filters, it shows the information that was submitted at that time. Then down here, there's another case very commonly used for write-back as well, where I come in here, for example, and on a line-by-line basis, I can update individual items. So for this, I'm selecting just one row and saying that, for example, we need to look into this because it's shipped late, took a few 5 days, where the normal ones should take at least or at most 3 days. And let's do a mid priority in this example and notify everyone over here. So they know that I'm working on this. They get the notification that we need to analyze this, and then we now see my comment there as well. I can see the color set as well because I'm using that as an item to customize the right back information on this worksheet. And if I pass my mouse over it, I can also see the user that made that change. So that's my demonstration user right there. If I need to do multiple rows at the same time, I can also select multiple rows. And then over here, I can just quickly do that. This was caused by supplier shortage, for example. And then set a low priority on this one if we know the cause, for example. And again, submit, and it updates right away over there. Of course, always keeping in mind that this is not affecting the source data. Effectively, what we are doing is writing to a separate table and then joining everything together on Tableau. I can actually just give you a quick look into that. In this case, we are using a join. We could use a relationship, but essentially we have on the left side the source data, which is a Tableau extract. And on the right side, the write back data, which is the database connection to my write back table. Going back to the dashboard. I notified some people over here on this one, and I can also show you the email that I got with here. So you'll see that a specific user mentioned you in a specific data set, in this case, the commenting one. And then I can see in here the selected mark, so where the comment was provided, and what was entered. So now, of course, I would go into the dashboard that contains these data sources and then provide the rest of my analysis or work. Going back to setting it up. I'm gonna start from scratch so I can show you a quick example on that. So so far we've been looking at how everything is used and in a already set up scenario. If I want to set up a scenario from scratch, I'll bring the extension object in and then use that T-Rex file that I mentioned that you will have for your own write-back instance. So this file lets you put your own write-back into the dashboard and set it up. Over here, I'll set it up for the map. I'm going to set it up as a smart table. And then I just want to read the countries for now. So I'll just remove all the other fields that I don't need. In here, of course, you select the worksheet that you want to work with. Because I want the map, I just left the map one selected. And in here, you can add or remove fields based on the fields that you have available in the worksheet. With the smart table, we're going to get the advantage of seeing all the countries directly in the table. So if we want to do like a forecast by country, we can do, for example, a sales forecast. That's going to be a number. A profit forecast. It's going to be also a number. And we could also have, for example, a status that would be like a draft status, a draft forecast, a final forecast, something that's under review, for example. And then I'm gonna leave everything else for now. I could activate notifications to notify my users, but let's actually do that as well. And for now, that's good. So let's just customize the message over here to say add your forecast. Okay, once I submit, the table gets created in my database, and then it's going to show up in here. So let's just give it a second. There we go. And now I get my table in here. So I may need to adjust these a little bit just to get more space. You can customize the width of your columns as well on write-back to make them fit a little bit better in your reports. So in here, I can now work. So let's put this alphabetically, for example, and I can work on the countries through here and start introducing the values. So I can do like this, or if you already have your data somewhere else, we can easily copy data from Excel. So for example, in here, I'm just going to quickly do some random values over here. So let's say, for example, this is our profit and sales. And I drag them across. I can just copy this and then paste across over here. So we can quickly fill out a lot of information directly on Tableau using right click. So over here, I now have all of these ready to submit. Let's submit, and of course, nothing happens yet because I haven't yet configured Tableau to read my new table. So let me just grab the name again. So my table is called forecast by country. So I can create a new data source connected to my, in this case, Postgres database. That's going to be my database, and we should have forecasts. Forecast on country. Oh, sorry, by country. My bad. And in here we can see all the inputs that we just did for all of them. So all the values in here. They're a draft. I missed a couple of here, but that's okay. You can see the new values. So now I'll just bring the table in. And in this case, because it's a separate data source, I could do data blending as well. Or if I worked on the same connection, I could just go in here, modify the data source, and add a connection to create like a relationship, for example. With the data, with a separate data source, I can now create a new worksheet. So forecast by country, I can have the country over here, and my new values, so the profit and sales. Of course, they're all the same because they just exist as these in my database. But of course, if I provide a different values, they would have been different. So in here, I could then bring the worksheet over somewhere on this report. Let's make it fit better. And then I could go back to right back, set up auto refresh, for example. And over here, select my right back data source. Once we do this, I'll do an entry on a new country, for example, over here for Sweden. Let's do 5,000 and then 4,000 in here. Set that as draft as well. And when I submit, we get the refresh, and Sweden now shows up in here as well. So this, of course, is a very minimal approach on setting it up. You would usually want to incorporate these more into your worksheets, as existing worksheets and existing visualizations. The main point in here is just to show you that it's very easy to set up. So I think this took me like at most 10 minutes to bring everything together in the same dashboard, showing everything from start to finish. Now these would essentially be ready to publish, and everyone that has access to WriteBack would be able, and to this dashboard would be able to do these entries. One last thing I forgot to mention, I'm gonna bring the commenting example over here just to simplify, but you can also do, in here I did an individual line by line, the individual and line by line entry. You can also do like, if you wanted to enter a lot of items at the same time, but with the individual values. In here, when I do it, you saw before, I think it's over here, they all get the same entry. But we can also generate a template file, and that's called the bulk upload data. It's in this button over here where you can download the template to generate essentially a template, an Excel file that will get your selected marks into a template. And I'm just saving it over here. Just a second, and I'll also open it up so I can show you how it looks like. So this template file will contain the selected marks like so. And then uh, the fields that you can customize the right pick will show up in here. Dropdowns will keep their dropdown attributes, so they will show like this. And then in this case, I only have these two fields, so it also shows the comment over here, and I could provide a comment across. So let's say this is inserted via Excel, and I'm just gonna quickly set the priority for all of them to not applicable. Can just quickly drag these across, or of course provide different for each one of them, but just for the sake of example, I'll just save. I'll go back to Tableau, upload a template. It does a validation to check if there's any errors. Because there's no errors, nothing shows up in here. And now it's trying to submit, and now 18 lines are in that quickly. So you can do a lot of data insertion right away. This is very useful for initially loading data into the right back tables because when you do set it up, it's going to be empty. But then this allows you to unblock that if that's something that you're concerned. With that out of the way, I think I can just quickly show you how write-back works. So from a more technical standpoint, you're going to see that write-back, and this is for the server version, everything will be on your infrastructure. So you will need a server to set up write-back. In there, you will also have the write-back manager. That's where you set up stuff like authentication, authorization, to control user access, as well as database connection, and it's where you manage your license seats. And then once you set up the database connection, write-back will be connected to your database where it's going to create the tables, and that historical audit table where we're going to be able to monitor user actions. On the cloud version, everything is very similar, functionality-wise as well. With the exception, of course, the infrastructure of the write-back server itself is in our cloud. Everything else stays the same, so the database will always be on your side, and all the features that we saw working also exist on the cloud. If that caught your eye, you can always try write-back for free. So both on the cloud version or on the server version, we offer a 30 days trial. It's a full feature trial. We can try every use case, any number of users during that period. And essentially, in the case, for example, for the server, if you set up a server, set up your POC there, it's very easy to then just switch to the production license if you do decide to move forward. So everything is streamlined. And same thing on the cloud. So if you do a cloud trial and you want to continue your subscription, you can just keep all the work that you have done throughout that month, giving you that ability to just quickly jump from POC to production right away. And let's get to the Q&A. I can see on the chat we already have some questions over here. Let me just take a moment to go through them. We have a question over here about the database technologies. So write-back supports Snowflake, yes. So that's one of the supported technologies. And actually for Snowflake, I can also add that with the move of Snowflake to enforcing MFA, we also have options for that. So on write-back, you can set up key pair authentication as well as OAuth for the Snowflake connection. And I can also show you over here the currently supported technologies. Let me also take the chance to say that this is all available in our documentation. So our documentation is publicly available, free for everyone to see. Both our website contains all the pricing information and how to get a trial, as well as the live demo. The live demo is a Tableau server, a public-facing Tableau server on a public-facing write-back and database. So please don't use any sensitive data, but you can try write-back even without doing any creating an account or anything like that. You can use it right away, completely free over there. That environment gets reset every every week, but it gives you an idea, or at least a quick way to show it if you want to show it to someone or to try it for yourself. If you do want to be more thorough with it, then definitely go for the trial. The trial you can request for the product over here, the product that makes sense to you. Hopefully that clarifies the Snowflake question over there.
Bruno, a quick question. If we're wanting to set that up for a Snowflake connection and we already have purchased Writeback and it's set up as a cloud instance, where would the setup instructions be in order to make that secure connection to our Snowflake online server? So you had mentioned that there's documentation here. Where exactly is that documentation inside of this site?
I'm not sure if I understood the question. So you're trying to change your existing connection on Writeback to Snowflake?
In Writeback, right now, the only connection that we have is, I believe, to SQLite. We want to make a connection to Snowflake, to our own server. And I'm looking for the instructions because when I test the connection, I'm getting an error message that says something along the lines of PO underscore Snowflake needs to be configured. And it looks like it's PHP. And there's a series of things that you need to go through in order to do that. So I'm just wondering where all of those instructions are located.
For that specific instruction, I don't think we have it. But what I'm gonna have you is gonna open a ticket on our service desk over here, so our team can help you through that. So that's included like in the product part of the product is the access to our service desk, where you can pose those questions to our technical team. I'm not gonna go in too deep on that particular in here because I believe that's quite technical. But let me just give you the link. I'll paste this link in the meeting chat. Please do open a ticket there so we can help you quickly on that.
Thank you so much.
No problem, and thank you for bringing that up. Looking forward to help you. Let me go to the next question. Over here, we have a question regarding the users adding rows and columns. So a user on Writeback, and that's what you saw me doing, it's effectively creating new rows because we are creating a new table. So that's adding new rows to that table. So that's essentially how Writeback works. If you want to add new items to the first data in here, so if I wanted to add a new order, then that's a different type of configuration on Writeback. I can pull up quickly a different use case for this, just to show you, while I answer the second question. So adding new columns that you can do as well as someone that's configuring. So once you set up Writeback, you're effectively defining the columns that there will be on the destination table and on as inputs on the form. So if you want to add more columns, you can come into the configuration again, add a new field, and then allow for that new column. So when you click to add a new field, that's going to create a new table in a new column in your table. Back on the other question, on the first part of the question, I'm just quickly opening the dashboard over here to the side. So over here, this is an example dashboard that I have for that. So there's a lot of dummy data in here, but essentially it is set up in a way that lets us insert new rows. So if I want to add a new category, let's say the category during the webinar, so we can easily identify it. It's going to show up in here. So it's now a new row in this table. So the way to set this up on WritePack, you define it as you typically do. And I usually recommend the form for this because it lets you customize it a little bit better. But essentially, you still need a source. However, this source, in this case, it doesn't actually mean anything. It's a worksheet called add category, and there's a dataset field called add category as well. So this is just a dummy worksheet for WritePack to have something to work with. Because it always needs to be configured for a worksheet. I created this worksheet where it really just has all of this, nothing else. So when we set it up like this, essentially everything that we add in here is going to be new data. But to make it show together with the source data, what I did in here was to create a union between my source data and the WritePack table. So we can see that this is a union, and on the top, I have the source data, and on the bottom, I have the WritePack table. Because it always creates a separate table, we have to do this, and effectively, those new rows on WritePack are now visible as the same on the table over here on the dashboard. Right, so hopefully that clears that one out as well. Let's just go on to the next one. Okay, so going to the permissions question over here, if a user can, for example, use the commenting dashboard but not the forecasting, well, I see that you don't want to control these through Tableau. Actually, that would be my first recommendation, is to control that through Tableau, because if a user doesn't have access to the dashboard with WritePack, then they won't be able to use it. But of course, you can also do these through WritePack. On WritePack, once you set up a configuration, you can come in here, and you're going to see the permission screen over here. And then I can come here and say that, okay, so let's say that another user like John over here, I don't want these users to be able to use these dataset at all. So I would remove the permissions, all the permissions that that user has on this data source. So even if they are able to see the dashboard, even if they are able to log in into WritePack, and even if they are able to use WritePack on this dashboard, once I do remove all of these permissions, the user won't be able to do anything through WritePack on this particular dashboard. On top of that, you may want to do something like zone visibility on Tableau. That's these over here using a value that you can set up for like a parameter, for example. And if I show that parameter, let me just bring that parameter. It's this one over here. This is just a random parameter. It doesn't really mean anything, but you can show or hide a container based on what's configured for that container. These and Tableau doesn't prevent the extension from load in these situations. It will still load, and if the user has to log in, it's still going to prompt for login. But typically, that's a nice way as well to set it up. And if you have the permissions on top, you can make sure that the user won't be able to go through. Right. Thank you for your questions. Let's see if I have anything else over here. I do have a very common question over here, which is related to the number of use cases that the license on WritePack can give you. So WritePack is not restricted on the number of use cases that you can use for. Okay, so you can have any number of use cases across any number of dashboards with WritePack. Everything will be ready for you to use in any number of use cases. The write-back license only counts users. Independently of their role on Tableau, they're a write-back user. A user can be someone that sets up write-back, or it can also be someone that inserts the values. This is based on named users, and every user will take a seat on the license. And we have one last question over here, and that will be for the actually setting me up for a segue into the webinar on Thursday for Power BI. So Thursday, the 8th of May, we'll be doing the webinar for Power BI as well, setting pretty much everything the same on over there. And yes, so most of the functions that we saw here today, I believe all of the ones that we saw here today are also available on Power BI. Write-back works over there very similar to how it works on Tableau. We always try to make everything look the same. The base of the application is exactly the same for both. So we essentially took all the knowledge we already had developing write-back for Tableau and added support for Power BI on top of it instead of having to rewrite a new application from the ground up. This, of course, gave us all the backstory that we already have with write-back, applied it to Power BI, of course, contextualize it there because it's a different platform, but we also have support for that now, including all the features that we showed. With this, I think I've gone through everything. All the questions are now answered as well. And thank you all for taking the time to attend this webinar. We're also always looking forward to your contact, so feel free to request a more detailed demo if you want to show write-back to your team, or even request a trial. We'll be there to help. You saw as well how easy it is to reach out to our service desk. You can use that link to open any technical question as well if you find it important or relevant to get going. So without further ado, thank you so much for taking your time. We'll be seeing you around. Have a nice one.